to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you. O'Donnell with a chance to make it that. There it is. And McDonald scores it back. Killed before the first time. Now killed before the first time. Killed before the first time.
Still McDonald, straight at the goalkeeper. Still McDonald, and he scores. Malcolm McDonald, Supermac has scored.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is a pre-recorded version of our Thursday night show with Supermac and Gibbo. Good evening, lads.
Good evening.
How you doing, fellas?
Hiya, John.
Good to
Good
see
picture
you.
of me, yeah?
It's the best
Yeah,
picture
you're
we've
looking
seen,
at
Malcolm,
your
isn't
very
it?
best, I have to say.
Well, we're two black and whiters. The two outside guys are black and whiters tonight, and then there's that fella masquerading in the middle there, look, with a halo above his head.
Yeah, that's what it's like tonight. It's you never know what's going to happen on this Thursday night show. As always, we're here to talk about Newcastle United and what's happened in the last 7 days. And Malcolm, 2 wins out of 2. Is this the start of another run of great fixtures for Newcastle United? It's very positive, a good performance at Forest. I felt that's the best so far in this calendar year.
Yeah, it was a very good performance. I was just disappointed in the lack of goals. That I really felt that there were more opportunities to be had than they actually created. But nevertheless, well, I was going to say, it was leaving it very, very close. The equaliser came well into added time at the end of the first half. The winner came in a similar situation in the second half. I want to see the general play creating more goal chances from them. That the players are good enough, mate. Make no mistake on that. They are good enough, and so it should be happening. And but well done to Isak. I thought he was absolutely terrific on the night. He really was, and the ball came awkwardly to him for his first goal, and I thought he gymnastically got his leg around it, and it was a terrific goal. Was that fabulous goal?
There's his stats, Mal. Player of the match, 2 goals, 5 shots, 20 sprints, 9 touches in the opposition box, 5 dribbles, 4 clearances. Some performance by Isak. Yes,
I think so. Absolutely. He was the standout player on the pitch for me. And I think that the rest of the side, they're still working out just what he's capable of doing. I think he can bring so much to the side. I really do. But one point, it seems that Sven Botman, he's been absolutely brilliant since he signed, and then the last couple of games he's just looked rather nervy. For that back pass of his that brought Forest's only goal, he just didn't look at all. Didn't look. Just played it in the direction of the goalkeeper, and wasn't aware of the run that the Forest forward made, and he did very well. The Forest forward, I have to say, to just go a step past Pope and then knock it in, and I just think we've got 2 wins in a row. We can do an awful lot more. But there are certain players that just need to up their game a bit.
I mean, I was very positive about the performance and the 2 wins. I thought before the 2 wins, guys, that Newcastle had gone stale. And we got the changes for Wolves, as some forced upon them, others not. It worked. We won, and I quite agree with Steve. I think that was our best performance this calendar year. Isak was absolutely sensational, and so much from not being able to last the 90 minutes, which is what Eddie was suggesting. It was about the 96th minute when he scored the penalty.
I don't think it was making any sense to any of us, was it?
No,
the
point that he was trying to make is that Newcastle don't play the way other Premier League sides do, where Isak would have probably been fit for them. They play a little bit the way Leeds did under Bielsa, which is very high pressing, ultra fitness required, blah, 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 and he thought he wasn't open to that. The only thing that blows holes in that thought is that we played Wilson in that team, who definitely wasn't up to that. Physically, I mean, up to high pressing for 90 minutes. And of course, he didn't play. He's rarely played the 90 minutes. But I mean, apart from Isak, who I thought was, well, he spoke for himself and he's got all the headlines, and quite rightly so. I thought there were other excellent performers. I thought Joe Willock was top draw. He's grabbed with both hands his opportunity that's been presented to him with Joe Linton going out banned, and good for Joe Willock because he missed starting in the FA Cup final because of injury. So it's nice to see him come back with a real appetite. I think Murphy has justified his selection and done very, very well out wide. And I thought Elliot Anderson in the second half was exceptional and scored a wonderful goal that was incorrectly ruled off because of offside. It was actually played against the legs of Longstaff and came back. I mean, Isak was lying on the floor when the ball comes to him. He jumps up, great feet, great quick movement, dinks the ball at the back post, and Anderson now powers the fellow in front of him, the defender in front of him, to get in a terrific header. And that was one of the goals that it should have been 3-1. We hit the bar twice, albeit with deflected shots.
Yeah, John, just going back to the Anderson goal that didn't count. The ball that went to Longstaff, it came off a Nottingham Forest defender.
But that's why it wasn't offside, Malcolm.
That's
but
right.
It couldn't have been
offside, and it even went to VAR. So there's a whole host of referees actually looking at this, and I can't believe that they can come up by saying he's offside.
The defender actually played it against Longstaff's shins. The defender played it against Longstaff's shins.
That's right.
He wasn't offside at all. And it was so sad for the boy because he had a vicious shot just before that produced a super save from the keeper. He deserved a goal. He scored a very good, legit goal. And I thought his 45-minute performance, I mean, all of a sudden, the whole complexion is changed in these 2 wins because Isak's come to the fore in both those games. Willock's come to the fore in both those games. Anderson's looked sensational for the second 45. And I think Murphy in both the games has justified his selection when he got in through Joe Linton not being available to play wide and Gordon not being available to play wide. I thought it would have been a travesty of justice had we not beaten them. Because we were so far ahead of what Forest are. And yet we took the 9-game unbeaten Premier League home record off them.
That's right.
In doing it. In sides like Liverpool and Man City and Chelsea have all failed to win there in that 9-game run, and we won there. So it shouldn't be underestimated. I thought we did terrific. And having had 3 2-0 defeats on the bounce, to get 2-1 wins was very satisfying from my point of view.
Sure.
And also the performance at Forest gave me great hope and has lifted the spirit, because it was vibrant, it was high pressing, it was optimistic, it was everything you want to see from a club. And they were dead unlucky not to run away with it by about 3 or 4 goals.
Sure.
They scored a great goal with Anderson, which would have been 3-1. They hit the bar twice, which would have been 5-1. And their goal, magnificently taken by Dennis, was actually presented to them. They never looked like scoring outside of that, to be truthful.
They didn't, did they? No.
No, they didn't. They didn't. So, I mean, I'm going into the break feeling a lot more optimistic than I did when we lost 2-0 to Liverpool, Man United and Man City. We've come back well from that. And I think it's because we were stale and we have been freshened up by Isaac, by Willett, by Murphy, by Anderson. New faces, and it's freshened the side, and it showed, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Would you be happy to start Anderson?
Well, my answer is yes.
So is mine.
I would definitely give him a start after that. The thing is, we've got Manchester United at home next.
What I was going to say, Steve, was that where he's got, because he was playing wide on the left, but he was coming in and attacking that far post. And he took that goal so well, and it was such a shame that it was disallowed. But that's what you never see St. Maximin do. You never see him coming in and attacking that far post.
I mean, I would start with Anderson I would be happy to start with Anderson against Man United.
Yes,
but
I would too.
What it's worth, I don't think it'll probably happen. And you know why? Because I think Willock is nailed on his position in the midfield. He's been stupendous the last 2 games. And I think that will mean that Joe Linton will come back on the left wing rather than in the middle of the park. And I think he's that much liked by Eddie Howe, Joe Linton, that I can't see him not starting in the team. And I think he'll play him left wide and bring Anderson on in the way that he did at Nottingham Forest. I'm not saying I would, but I'm saying that's what I think the manager will.
I think, though, that with the performance that we saw from Anderson, he deserves a start. And I think it'll just knock his confidence some if he doesn't start in the next game.
I think he's got so much confidence. I think he couldn't knock it back with a steamroller. But
I mean, that was a big test for the lad. I mean, it was almost similar to watching Gaza in 1990 when he realised he wasn't going to play in the World Cup final, when that goal was chalked off, and he held back the tears and then refocused and started giving the team, the come on, let's put that behind one, let's move on. And I thought for a young lad that showed an immense amount of maturity. He got over that little hurdle and he put in a great shift. And I think Eddie Howe, certainly, let's face it, he looked at Liverpool, Malcolm, and he was willing to give Anderson a start against Liverpool. And I can see where John's coming from with Joe Linton. I mean, Joe Linton's done nothing wrong, but without, you've got to pay a compliment to the midfield, in general. Longstaff, Murphy, we haven't touched on him yet, Willock, and then Anderson. We didn't miss Joe Linton in those 2 games. We didn't miss him. And that's a massive positive. And you've got to bear in mind as well, we're also missing what I guess most of us would look at and say at the moment are, almost first names on the team sheet, and Anthony Gordon and Almiron. We haven't even mentioned them. So, I mean, Anderson's got competition, but he certainly didn't do himself any harm at the weekend.
No, he didn't. Not at all.
No, he was terrific, and he's only 20-year-old. The future is very, very bright, and it's totally there in front of him. And I was just stressing what I think Eddie Howe will do, not what ought to be done necessarily, because I would be delighted. But I've been banging on about Elliot Anderson since the old days because I was alerted to his granddad and have been following him long before he got anywhere near the Newcastle first team. So I'm a big Anderson fan. But the point I'm trying to make is that we've got about a dozen matches left. And all of a sudden, there's alternatives, isn't there?
Yes.
We're talking about where Joe Linton can get back in the side.
John, that's very true.
Anderson should be in.
Yeah. If we look back, if we go back, 4 or 5 months in this season, there weren't the alternatives then.
No.
A couple of injuries, and we were in problem street. But now, there's a number of players that could just very easily slot into
if
an
you
available position.
If you look at the start of the season and thought that for the first half of the season leading up to Christmas, our two top goal scorers were Almiron and Wilson, so they were unmovable. They can't get in the side now.
Yeah,
that's how much the picture has changed because the two top goal scorers, and they're still the two top goal scorers, by the way, is Almiron and Wilson, and they can't get in the side as starters right now. I know that Almiron's now got an injury, but he was taken out the starting lineup before the injury, and Wilson has struggled since the World Cup. So the two top hitters we had early in the season aren't in the side, and people like Isaac, Murphy, and Anderson that were getting nowhere near the side in the first few months of the season are now key members of the squad. It has changed significantly, but I think it had to. We were running out of ideas with the old team, with the old same 11, same 11, same 11. We were running out of ideas, and it's half been freshened up with these new guys. Isaac's been a breath of fresh air. Murphy's been is done much better than a lot of people expected. Anderson was terrific, and Willock is come back having put the disappointment of a cup final appearance behind him. And we forget how young Willock is, He's still a boy because he come through early at Arsenal. He's still a boy, and he's done terrific for us. So new hope, I think, across the board, to be truthful. And as we say, we've still got a new signing, Gordon, when he gets fit to make his mark on the side.
What's actually wrong with him, John?
I think it's ankle. It was at least a 3-week job when he went out. It happened in training. I think they train very hard and they train like they play because they want to high press. They want to be all about physicality, etc., etc. So a bit like Leeds under Bielsa. Monday to Friday is a bit like Saturday or Sunday, like match day. And it can produce an injury. And Almiron's got injured and Gordon's got injured.
You can produce an injury. But also it would suggest that Gordon hasn't been used to that kind of preparation through the week when he was at Everton. And so he's finding it all a bit of a strain.
I think that's probably true. It's a good point, Malcolm.
It takes a while to catch up.
I do know that one of the reasons why Eddie Howe was very keen on him, and while other people in the club, in the scouting system, would be very keen on him as well, Eddie Howe was particularly keen on him because he saw Gordon as his type of winger. Very fluid, very quick, very high pressing, very capable of doing the physical job that he wants his wingers to do. And in fact, what St. Maximum in the same position doesn't do. St. Maximum doesn't like a high press. He wants to do his game. He doesn't want to do a high press. Almiron on the other side will do a high press. Gordon, I'm told, will be perfect for a high press because he's on the hoof. He plays it that way. Our style doesn't suit St. Maximum, which is why I think in the summer Newcastle will sell him for as much top dollar as they can get.
John,
and some people that don't
tell me what style would suit St. Maximum.
The style that we had with with Steve Bruce, where he was number one man, and it was
Oh,
give
what?
the
Where
ball to him and see
we
what
had
can happen.
5 men defending across the edge of the box
I
constantly.
know we don't want to go into that, Malcolm, because if we do, I'm going off for me tea again. I've told you.
You could slip off anyway, John. We wouldn't see you.
Well, yes, you wouldn't hear us either, mate. You
Yeah.
would just hear us jumping on the nose back.
For all we know, you've got egg and chips in front of you right now.
Oh, can you see me now?
No.
Yeah, but I genuinely think that, there is room for Anderson in the side. I do believe what John is saying is right, though. I don't think Eddie will go with him for the Manchester United game. I would imagine he will go with Joe Linton back in the team, but we will stand to be corrected. We will wait and see. I was going to go on about the training, Malcolm, and injuries seem to be coming thick and fast, and I know every team goes through it. Unless you're remarkably lucky, you're always going to have these little spells during a season where injuries rob you of your best players. But Almiron, we don't know exactly what's happened, and how it's happened. We may get a little bit more from Eddie Howe at some point during the break in Dubai. Gordon, training injury. Ashby, the young right back, training injury. Training, I know, has to almost imitate game time, I guess. But is there reason to be concerned as a supporter when you hear these, or should we just accept it that this is part and parcel of the way Eddie does things and just accept the rough with the smooth?
Before Malcolm answers that, and it's a good question to Malcolm, we can also point out that both Shaw and Pope have pulled out of international squads.
Yeah.
Because they're carrying injuries, although they didn't miss the last Newcastle game at Forest. Yeah. They're both out of the international squad. And then again, if we're talking about fitness, and we know it's different, we've got Wilson that needs to come up to match sharpness. And we've got Bruno, who I think has courageously been carrying an ankle for 2 or 3 games now. And I'm off pleased that he's getting a rest and not away with the Brazilian side, because it's his big heart that's kept him going during all this, because he's so enthusiastic about Newcastle finishing as high as possible. But he's carrying as well. So as you said, Steve, we've got quite a few with knocks.
Yeah. Should we be concerned, Malcolm, about this?
No, I think it's a different style to what they've been used to, and they've got to get used to that. And I think what Eddie Howe and his coaches are wanting is high intensity. They need a high intensity of play to suit the style and the shape that they have actually out on the pitch on match days. So no, it's a question of everybody getting up to that standard and that fitness. And they're going to take a few pulls and strains along the way.
Are you concerned, John? I mean, you of course you're going to be concerned, because they come out the blue, don't they? We only get when we even get a press conference before the game, the closest we get to any sort of suggestion anybody's injured is that we have 1 or 2 knocks. Now, I know that the modern way of doing it is that you're not going to give way that somebody's out in team news, because you don't want to alert the opposition. So we have 1 or 2 knocks. Then when we get the team an hour before kickoff, we'll find that, that Gordon's out for 3 weeks and Almiron's out for 6 weeks, without any further explanation. In the old days, people like Joe Harvey just used to tell it the way it was, that so-and-so was injured and that put so-and-so in contention to play. I mean, funny enough, when we went to Forest, their manager did it the exact opposite way, didn't he? He said Johnson virtually had no chance of playing, Brendan Johnson, because he was carrying an injury and had no chance of playing. Then when the team's announced, he is playing. So he did it the exact opposite. He highlighted somebody wasn't going to play, and he did. Was that so it would surprise Newcastle? Who knows? But it's all mind games. But we don't find out the extent of injuries. It's one of those little things that infuriates me, because you can't gauge how long somebody's out or what they've got. I mean, we didn't know there was anything wrong with Pope until the word come that he pulled out the England squad. We thought Shaw mightn't play at first because the Swiss let out through the media out there that Shaw had pulled out the squad because he was carrying an injury. Then he's still fit enough to play for us at Forest.
Yeah, it's
so,
a strange one, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where Shaw's got an injury. He's more concerned about Newcastle than he is about Switzerland these days because he's been out of their side a couple of games. And I think he's thought, I need this period of warm weather training just to get fit and get ready for a huge run in. And he's done that. But we had no idea that there was anything wrong with Pope until all of us. Again, if there is something wrong with him, do pull out and use the fortnight to get 100% fit, because he wasn't going to play for England in these two matches. Pickford was. He would have just sat on the bench and trained. So, you can't blame him for that. But it's just every time I get the team sheet on match day, I'm just waiting to see who's got an injury, because we don't know beforehand. I mean, all of a sudden, Gordon doesn't appear on the team sheet. He's asked why, and he's out for 3 weeks. Almiron doesn't appear on the team sheet. He's asked why. Oh, he's out for 6 weeks. And so you just don't know, do you? You don't know.
No, you don't know. Halfway through the show, we'll go with the ads. Big thanks to all our sponsors. Thanks to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria, and you can find them at mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk and place an order by phoning 01768 210 102. Thanks to Free Vita Getaways. Book your holidays or short breaks in the UK or around the world with them. Let them find your happy place. ABTA and ATOL registered. You can contact them by emailing fruivitagetaways@gmail.com. Call or text 0792 842 7895 and join their Facebook group at Free Vita Getaways. Thanks to Media Arts for all the technical help and videos that they do. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. If you want to join the channel, click join and you can see the various rates that you can pay to help support us. If you want to join by subscribing, hit the subscribe button. That is free. Hit the thumb up under the video to help the algorithm, and click share to other social media platforms. If you do subscribe, we do give you a free car sticker. Just email John at nufcmatters.com and he will post you one out. If you want to join the cult, which is a one-off payment of £25, where you get a scarf, a pen, a cup, and entry into the monthly draw, then go to nufcmatters.com and look for the cult membership, or put your phone over this smart code and it will take you straight there. We are available as well as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. And we do support the food bank on this channel. So if you want to make a virtual donation from anywhere in the world, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and put your money into the match day bucket. We've got some events coming up. First off in April, April 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 11th. Peter Beardsley Soccer School is back for ages 6 to 16 years. Go to peterbeardsley.soccerschool.com for more information. An evening with John Anderson at the Time House Surf Cafe, Tuesday the 18th of April. Book your tickets direct from the venue. An evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson 2 nights later, Thursday the 20th of April at the Irish Centre. Tickets from nufcmatters.com. An evening with Nobby Solano at Laurels in Whitley Bay is May the 11th. So contact the venue direct if you want to go to that event. And we've got our NUFC Matters end of season party, which is the 27th of May at 7 o'clock. Tickets are a tenner from nufcmatters.com. An evening with Rob Lee at Louis Liquor Store, 1st of June. And tickets direct from the venue. And an evening with Rob Lee, Lee Clark and John Beresford, Friday the 2nd of June at the Grand Hotel Gosforth, which is in aid of the Healing Tour charity. And you can get your tickets direct from them at the healingtour.org.uk website. Just click events. A little bit later in the year, an evening with Gavin Peacock, July the 10th. Tickets from nufcmatters.com for that one. And if you like your boxing, A Night of Champions featuring Frank Bruno, Ricky Hatton, Nigel Benn, and Joe Calzaghe. Tickets for that one from goldstarpromotions.com. Okay, a little bit earlier this week on some of the earlier shows, Scott McTominay was linked with Newcastle. Malcolm, I don't think that's an improvement on what we've got, and I personally don't think that Newcastle United will be taking any other club's rejects under this new regime. Under Mike Ashley, it was common practice, but I don't think Newcastle will be taking any cast-offs. I really don't. I think they will make a plan and they'll follow it accordingly. But I can't see that happening, Malcolm. And I don't think I would want it to happen. I don't think he's any better than Sean Longstaff on his day.
No, he's not. No. And Sean Longstaff, remember, he does more running in the Premiership than any other player at any club. He puts more into every 90 minutes. And he's great value to have in the side. McTominay, he's not going to make the side better than what it is now, I don't think. But there's so much going on the internet of who's coming in and what have you. But like the injury list that we never get to find out about, Eddie Howe he will keep everything very close to his chest, even new signings coming in, and I think we'll be pleasantly surprised in the summer, and we won't hear the name McTominay again.
What do you think, John?
Well, the interesting thing is we've earmarked the positions we want. We want a left back. We want a right-sided centre half. We want 2 midfielders, 1 holding, 1 attacking, and we want a forward. So there's a minimum of 5. We might take a second forward, 1 wide and 1 through the middle, but it's a minimum of 5. And McTominay is, by the way, I'm very unimpressed. I don't rate particularly high. But there's absolutely no question that he's on the list of possibilities at St James's Park. The idea being that McTominay would be the sitter just in front of the 2 centre halves, and Bruno would be released to play higher up the park. So don't be surprised if he comes in, boys, or you would leave me totally underwhelmed. The people I want to see come in is people like Tierney at left back, who I think is a very, very good player, the Arsenal left back, who was at Celtic, and I think he's real quality. And it's just very unlucky that this guy from Man City is gone in the side and made it even better. But Tierney's a good player. Maddison's a good player. Diaby, who's playing in Germany at the moment, that plays wide attacker, is a terrific player. They're Rolls Royces. I would love them to come in. The only thing I've got with Tierney and Maddison, I would want to make certain that their fitness is up to scratch, because there's been
very important
against both their fitnesses because they've both had injuries. But 100% Tierney and 100% Maddison, what signings they would be. Diaby's just terrific, and he's fit. He'll cost an awful lot of money. But McTominay is being considered as the sitter in a squad because of what they can release Bruno further up the field. I don't know that much about him because I've never watched him a lot, and he's not somebody that would excite me. But I don't know how many sitting midfield players would excite you, because it's not a job of flair and abundance. It's going to catch your imagination. The other midfielder that attacks is the one that's going to catch your imagination.
Yeah. Right, but Bruno playing as a sitter, he didn't have to get forward a lot, John.
Oh, sure.
And
I'm just telling you what the club thinks.
That's what you want. There's no need to play Bruno further forward, because he loves coming that little bit later than everybody else, sneaking into the box, and you won't get that from McTominay.
No, they wouldn't want him to do that. They want him to sit. If they take him, I'm not saying they'll take him, but the interest unfortunately, you might think, I'm left cold by it,
Yeah.
but I don't know how many defensive midfielders would get me terrifically excited because it's not an exciting position. But yes,
Bruno
he
does
is.
excite you, John.
Sorry?
Bruno does
Oh
excite
yes,
you.
but he's not really just a sitter, is he, Bruno? He can do everything. He's all rolled into one.
But he defends well in front of the back line.
There's a feeling though within some at St James's Park, and I'm don't shoot the messenger. I'm just the guy telling you the feeling in there. There's a feeling within St James's Park that Bruno's got so much more that he could be better used 10, 15 yards further forward.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, again, we've got a lot of decisions to make, and we'll certainly make them in the summer. And again, financial fair play will have its say as far as Newcastle's acquisitions, but we will watch with interest.
Sure, but also, Steve, the business that's done in the summer, it will greatly depend on whether we're in Europe next season.
Yeah, very, very true.
Yes, and so they can't make final decisions until the season is over and we know exactly where we are and what we're challenged with next season.
Yeah, you're right, Malcolm. And not only is it a matter of are we in Europe or we're not, but it's which European competition we're in. Because if you're in the Europa League as opposed to the Champions League, there's certain players that would come here for Champions League football wouldn't be so keen to come here for Europa League football. It's all stepping stones. We will get to the Champions League, but are we going to get the Champions League for next season or not? And by the way, and you've said it many times in the past, Malcolm, if we do get to the Champions League this year, and it's not out of possibility because teams like Liverpool and Spurs are falling over their own bootlaces. So the possibility is now we've won these two, the possibility is really big for us because we've still got Manchester United, Spurs, Arsenal, Brighton and Brentford to play. Now, if we start winning those, then we go into the Champions League. If we do go into the Champions League, this squad is nowhere near strong enough.
Sure.
In depth.
Very, very much so. Manchester City, who have been in the Champions League for some consecutive years now, they can literally put out 2 first teams. And that's pretty much what you need to succeed in the Champions League.
And they still haven't won it, Malcolm.
And they still haven't won it. Yes.
Incredible.
Excellent point. They still haven't won it.
I'll take me chances. Don't worry about that. I'll have a slice of the Champions League if I can. But it would all take some work in the summer. It would take some work in the summer to have the depth.
But also, I was going to make the point in this final run in to the end of the season that we've got 2 games in hand on Tottenham.
Oh yes.
That leads us into my next question, actually, lads. I was going to ask you, who should we fear in the run-in? And just looking at the table, Arsenal out of sight, I would have said. Manchester City, second place at the moment on 61 points. So those two are going to battle it out for the top of the table. But in third place, Manchester United, obviously in 50 points. Spurs in fourth place at the moment on 49. Newcastle in fifth, 2 games in hand on Tottenham, just 2 points behind Spurs. And obviously have to play Spurs and Manchester United in the coming weeks. Just behind Newcastle in sixth place, level on games. 5 points behind now is Liverpool. In seventh place, Brighton, who have a game in hand on us and level on points with Liverpool. So they're 5 points behind with a game in hand. Then you have to go back to Brentford. Newcastle have a game in hand on Brentford in eighth. Again, they are on 42 points, but they have a game in hand on Brentford, and of course travel to Brentford in the next few weeks for a game. You then get back to Fulham, who obviously slipped up at the weekend in their game in the FA Cup, but they are again a game in hand. Newcastle have, and they are on 39 points, so 8-point gap between Newcastle and Fulham. So Chelsea, who are 10th, you can't write them off. You never know what's going to happen in these final games. They're on 38 points, as are Aston Villa. That's your last two teams, 10th and 11th, both on 38 points, who, if they put some kind of monumental run together and Newcastle had a monumental collapse in form, then, potentially they could take over. Newcastle could find themselves down there. But it's interesting. Who do you fear, Malcolm? A lot of people on the platform are saying Brighton, but I always feel Brighton are the team that dip off. My biggest worry, I think, is Liverpool. I think Liverpool are always more than capable of putting a run together and a run in. They've done it before. They've won they've won trophies in recent seasons. Liverpool, for me, are the biggest fear. But again, they've shown that they're susceptible to a daft defeat. They went and beat Manchester United 7-0 and then go to the South Coast and play Bournemouth and lose 1-0. So it's a weird situation to be in. But a lot of people pointing to Brighton as the dark horses.
Yeah. The fear I have is that Newcastle, they go back to having a run of draws. That this is why I'm so concerned, that the goals are coming very late in each half. I want to see just a few more goals coming from the open play, not in added time all the while. And if we can start to finish off all the possession, all the good possession and the chances that we make, then that would be great. And we will qualify for Europe. What I'm concerned about is Newcastle suddenly just ending the winning run, going back to constant draws. And if that's the case, we'll be overtaken. We are our biggest problem if we should allow ourselves to be. And I think that defensively we're going to be fine. But
okay,
it's scoring goals that is the most crucial thing in bringing success to the club.
I mean, if I've got to look at the same question, Steve, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? Because I'm taking Manchester United out of the equation. I'm not saying that we won't finish above them, because if we beat them in the next game, we could well do it. But I think they will make the Champions League. So it's who will be the fourth team to make the Champions League. Now, you would think it ought to be Spurs or Liverpool, and Liverpool because of what they are. I mean, Spurs, I just hope they keep Conte, because by the time he slags the players and the players hate him, it's wonderful. We will go. The biggest danger is if they get rid of Conte, they might actually start doing something. Although if they put Mason in charge, and I'm told he will, he's 31. He's the lad that had to finish playing early because of an unfortunate incident. I think he hasn't got enough to take them there. And unless Harry Kane decides to take them there on his own, and if he wants to transfer in the summer, he won't, because the best way of getting away is if they're not in the Champions League. I mean, on paper, I can follow punters. The side that, if I was a neutral, the side that deserves it, apart from us, and we are the biggest deservers because we were in a relegation fight last season, is Brighton. I mean, it's phenomenal. They are phenomenal. All their best players are nicked. They make certain they get top dollar for them, by the way, but they're still nicked. And they're still produce. They've got this little centre forward who's 19 out of Dublin or something now, who's going to be a flipping world beater. Where did he come from? Apart from Dublin.
John, have you seen him?
Just, and they do it all the time. They change manager all the time, and they still roll on. We nick Dean from there. We nick Byrne from there. Doesn't make any difference. They still keep going. I mean, and they could be in a cup final against Man City.
And they change managers as well, John.
I said that. Yes, I said that. They do. And it makes no... And they get a manager we've never heard of. And they do terrific.
And he just keeps the whole thing running on.
They, in theory, are the great challenge to us. historically it ought to be Spurs or Liverpool, and Spurs are so dodgy, you think then it's got to be Liverpool. But this season, Liverpool are dodgy. If they hadn't taken 6 points against us, Steve, where would they be?
Yeah.
They wouldn't even be in the race if you take them 6 points off them, Steve. And it was a travesty of justice at Anfield.
Yes,
and
it
even
was.
here, after they went 2-0 up, they looked very iffy defensively the whole game, but we weren't able to take advantage of it. So, you're never going to have an opportunity to make the Champions League like this season, because there's only sort of 3 clubs look as if they want it, the 2 Manchesters and Arsenal, and the rest are falling over themselves, so that we are still in the picture, having had all the draws. I couldn't agree more than I do with Malcolm, though. My great concern is not what the other sides do, it's what we do. If we start drawing again, we've had it. I honestly think we'll make Europe, but it's which one? And if the Europa League I can stand, because it's the old UEFA Cup, but the Europa Conference League or something, which has got Cocky Leaky Juniors, the champions of the Faroe Islands, and the Outer Hebrides in it, I don't fancy that competition whatsoever. I mean, it might be a good competition for Gateshead to go into or whatever, but it's not a great competition to have to play every Thursday night. The Conference League, not the Europa League. So, we've got to wait and see. I think we will make Europe. But yes, I think Malcolm absolutely hit the nail on the head. You asked me, Steve, which team I'm worried about. The team I'm worried about is Newcastle United.
Good point.
Reverting to draws. If we don't do that, we qualify.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I've got to ask you, lads, when is it too old, Malcolm, to be a football manager? Because as we record this today, Roy Hodgson is back in management again, and he's back at Crystal Palace after, they parted ways with Patrick Vieira. They've brought in Roy Hodgson and Ray Lewington, God bless him. Always by Roy's side. I mean, they say that he's got more than enough experience to keep Crystal Palace up. But I've got to be honest, he looked out of sorts when he was last in the chair. So this is 2 years on, Malcolm.
I know.
Has this surprised you?
It astonishes me, to be honest. I suppose with that Palace have gone with who they know, and they know that they can rely on Roy. But I just find it quite remarkable that because he's sort of gone around telling everybody, this is years back, that he had playing experience at Crystal Palace and at Fulham. But it was supposed to be at the same time as I was at Crystal Palace. He never played for Crystal Palace. He wasn't there. But then I decided to sign for Fulham rather than Crystal Palace, and he wasn't at Fulham either. But his CV, he had to alter all of his playing CV. But he's and he's sort of gone through Swedish clubs and Swiss clubs and what have you, and then became Switzerland's manager, and it was all on a made-up CV, and he's still getting jobs to this day, and he's what now, 75?
Yeah, he is. The thing that staggers me, and I mean, I was a chairman of a football club for 11 years, albeit Gateshead, which is hardly the Premier League, but nonetheless, the theory stands. It was we were one division out of the Football League, and the same practice applies at that level as it does to the league level. And I'm putting myself in Parish's position, the chairman of Crystal Palace. If I sacked Roy Hodgson because his age and he's past his sell-by date and his ideas are a bit sterile, and he did very well for us, but we've got to move on and have a vibrant new manager who's much younger and is tomorrow's man, and that's Vieira, and then Vieira doesn't do it. And you go back to this guy. I mean, how much are you admitting you were wrong? You sacked him he wasn't good enough a year and a half ago. Now he's going to rescue you from relegation. Well, I mean, the only man that got it wrong is the chairman, isn't it? It's not
Yes.
Roy Hodgson didn't get it wrong because he didn't take them down. The chairman, who thought he was too old and ought to be attending to his garden and popping down to the post office with his pension book, all of a sudden thinks he's the Messiah that's going to keep them up. And when he is the Messiah and does keep them up, he'll get peddled again because they'll go and get somebody new for the future. I mean, if I was the chairman, I would think, how do I sell this to our fans, to the rest of the football world, and still keep my street cred? I find it staggering what the chairman's done, not what Roy's done, what the chairman's done. And I certainly think what Malcolm said was right. He looked, bless him, and as somebody of a certain age myself, I'm not going to start slamming older people, but he looked as if he'd had enough last time he was in the dugout. He looked as if he was going to be relieved not to be there any longer. And all of a sudden he is there, like, you know.
I believe that there's a lot of reliance on Ray Lewington. Ray's got a brilliant footballing brain.
Yeah, I know you know him from the... But I mean,
he was my skipper at Fulham.
Exactly. But I mean, at least Neil Warnock has a bit of bounce in him like a ball, doesn't he? I mean, you know, he keeps bouncing back, but at least he's a bit bouncy, and whereas dear old Roy looks as if he's more than had enough. But he'll bring some sort of organisation to them. But I wonder what the players think who played for him at Palace before. Then he gets a sack. Then they've got Vieira. And by the way, the guy that put in for Saturday's game was going to be caretaker at the end of the season. He gets one game. They don't get over the halfway line, so he gets a pedal. I mean, I'm off glad that the chairman of Crystal Palace isn't the chairman of Newcastle United. But they've all, and this guy Parish, I've got a bit of time for. But remember, Simon Jordan used to run that club, so perhaps it's a fruitcake club.
Yeah, definitely. And Newcastle, obviously in the United Arab Emirates, just basically given a little bit of a bit of warm weather training. And Joe Linton has returned to Brazil. Bruno is in the Maldives on a little trip. ASM is in Dubai, but apparently isn't at the training camp. So you know, a few people giving alternative ways of having a rest by Eddie Howe. They are going to have a behind closed doors kickabout against the local side, Gulf United, which is coached by former Newcastle player Stephen Taylor, of course, who have just clinched back-to-back promotions by winning the second division championship. Well done to him. It's good to get away, Malcolm, I guess, for the players who are there, a bit of warm sun on their back, a chance to reflect on the last two games and a chance to look ahead to the running.
Sure. And while they're over there, I would imagine that they'll be doing a lot of very good PR with regards to all that's going on with the Saudis and the football in England.
The interesting thing that the boys that are away, like Maxi or Joe Linton and Bruno, have been away for a few days now, and then they're linking up with the rest of the squad in their training camp afterwards for the warm weather training. I think it's a good break. It's going to work for them, and it'll do no harm when they're resting bones to have a bit of sun and have a bit of sun.
It won't, John. And I think we've got to remember that they work damned hard when they're in this country.
Absolutely,
when the football is the matches come constantly, and this high press game it requires a huge amount of fitness and energy. To make it a success, and so there's no problem with having that little bit of a relaxation, and just taking the heat out of everything for the moment.
All I'm hoping for in this fortnight is for Isaac to come back the same player that he was when he went away, because if you remember last time he went away with the Swedes. That's when he come back injured. Can you remember, Steve? And he was out for X amount of time, a long, long time.
3 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was after being away on international duty.
Yeah.
So please God, Sweden, treat him with a bit of cotton wool and a bit of respect. We want him back the same as he was at Forest.
Yeah, we certainly do. England, of course, and you know the other home nations playing this weekend. It's just frustrating. Has the break come at a bit of an awkward time for us, Malcolm? We just got back on the bike. 2 wins.
I don't like this. Clubs having to take breaks. I really don't. This is a crucial time of the season, and all of a sudden, play is suspended. And for internationals, I don't like it at all. It's I think it can upset the rhythm that a club gets into, and you come back and maybe it's just difficult to find the good form that you were in.
I think, Malcolm,
and I'll be nervous. I'll be quite honest. I will be nervous in the Man United game, but they'll have lost a lot of players as well. But
the interesting thing is, there's no question that the World Cup interrupted us, because before the World Cup we were flying.
Yes, without a shadow.
We were flying, and when we
doubt.
come back from the World Cup, that's when we started drawing every game.
Yeah.
So the World Cup knocked us back a little bit. We've got to hope that because this one's a shorter spell in the World Cup, that we come back a lot better than we were. Oh, the dog's ringing the bell at the McDonald house. So we're barking up the wrong tree there. You're now on screen by yourself, Steve. So if we can keep
with
going,
me in some kind of oriental.
I was going to say, what is that? The gong of what was
Rank Films?
Was it, can you remember the guy with the big gong?
Rank Films.
On the author Rank Films. There he is. He's back. He answered the door.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's quite all right, my friend. Have you let the dog in?
He hasn't learned to ring the bell yet.
Hey, it's been great stuff, lads. We will be back next week, and we'll be looking ahead, of course, to Newcastle United's game against Manchester United. But enjoy your Newcastle United stress-free weekend, gents.
We certainly will. Yet another weekend when Newcastle don't lose. It's marvellous, isn't it? Take care, guys.
Take care.
Indeed. Well, personally, I think not playing causes an awful lot more stress than when you do play.
Take care, lads. Have a good week.
Indeed. Yes, enjoy the England game.